Values. That's what you find on your website. And also, of course, leaders love to talk about values. Often companies, corporations, organizations put values first on the website and marketing, and on C-level, board of directors, supervisory board, no matter where you are, they talk about values, values, values. With very little surprise, employees in these organizations see it a bit more critical, and often for a reason. We had many examples where everything value related went really wrong. KPMG had to fire their chairman, had negative headlines just recently in the Middle East about how leaders behave there. Ernst & Young, 27-year-old in Sydney, committed suicide, investigation ongoing, no consequences so far. In Germany, we had Axel Springer, major publisher, one of the largest publishing houses in the country, where their chief editor had to be fired. At least that was what a law firm recommended. And what they did is they took him out of the office, but he's still on their payroll. Others do it a bit better. Adidas just this week fired and cut ties with Kanye West, including many other brands who did so as well. Just to let you know, Kanye West, if you haven't heard about the story, made anti-Semitic statements, which is, of course, wildly unacceptable. Cutting ties was exactly the right decision. What does that mean for Adidas? Depending on the sources and depending on how you want to look at it, it is a loss between $200 to $600 million. So probably $500 million lost. That's how a management shows that values come first. The main question always is, what is it that management says and what is it that management lives by? And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to do it better, because at the moment we see it is not going too well in most organizations. So first question is, what do they talk about? And then what gets into the writing process? What gets written down? And there's often a massive difference between what is talked about and what is written down. Because as soon as it's written down, this is now a hard rule you have to live by. Anything else can be all talk, no trousers, or you say, oh, I meant it in a different way when you only had it on the verbal channel or said it in some interview. You must have it in writing. That is a decisive, that's a crucial part of how to get better when it comes to living by the values you claim to have. And of course, when you write it down, it has to be specific, especially with two aspects here. So one aspect is hard numbers, KPIs. And of course, I am not a friend of having certain quotas of certain people in certain positions. However, and we have an example here in Germany, Angela Merkel for a very long time said there will be no quota for women in certain positions. However, after 16 years and I am a self-employed entrepreneur, and I have to agree with her here. She said, after 16 years of talking, that they said there will be a better way, but not a quota. And we are working on having more, for example, women and minorities on board level or supervisory board positions. And after 16 years of talking about it, nothing has changed. The share of women on board level still is below 5%. And then, of course, a quota came, and the law was, it's a soft quota, so you could also leave the chair empty if you want to, which is, by the way, PR-wise, even the worst choice. These hard numbers, the KPIs, the numbers you work with are a crucial part to identify where you have challenges. It doesn't mean that you immediately have to punish people. However, the hard factors are the ones where you have to see which are the correct ones, and please don't make up your own KPIs. I have seen way too often that people say, oh, we have a calculation of our own KPI. We call it the diversity KPI, and we take the amount of university graduates in a certain age range in a certain region. So they already calculate the numbers down. So they can say, okay, in comparison to that, we are doing really well. Yeah, and in comparison to reality, you are not doing well at all. Employees immediately see when you try to get away with something that is not reasonable, not valid, not reliable, data-driven, but just something you made up to make yourself look better. So hard numbers have to be numbers that actually are correct. Otherwise, you will be called out, and in worst case, called out publicly. Of course, soft factors play a role as well. CSFs, the critical success factors, organizational culture, motivation, employee satisfaction, etc. Aspects you cannot really measure, but you try to do so, getting as close as possible. Soft factors are equally important, if not more important, compared to hard factors. So both sides of the game, please serve them and put it in writing. And then, of course, what you need is a process where people can report when things go wrong. When anything goes wrong, any aspect during work goes wrong, someone violates one of these rules, what is the process of how to report it? And when you say, my door is always open, report it to me, That is not the way. The bare minimum is that people can report it and it says anonymous, and you must have a whistleblower process. When you have an organization now over a certain size, it means you need to have it anyway. It's a European Union law. Many organizations comply with it because they know that, so of course, first they have to comply with it in certain regions, and in other regions they know having a whistleblower is cheaper than being called than being called out in a newspaper, and you have to deal with the headlines and all the negative press with it for probably a couple of months, if not longer. So the anonymity has to be sustained, that people are sustainably able to stay anonymous, and the whistleblower process must be in place. However, people, of course, still must be able to report it openly if they want to. The main issue here often is that the process needs a certain timeline, which is often not there. And this timeline must be a legally binding timeline. I have seen way too many organizations saying, oh yeah, we have a timeline. The timeline is 2 years. And the timeline of 2 years means first 6 months, you're not going to do anything. Then you talk a bit and it gets delayed, only to say after 2 years, it is so long ago and we don't even really know what happened anymore. So we're just going to drop it. So the timeline must be tough. People need to see that you have an interest in getting it off the table with a proper solution. Unfortunately, often people don't show the necessary consequences. And here's the important part for you as a leader. When something goes wrong, when any aspect of work goes wrong with regards to this aspect, let's say a diversity offense. The diversity offense is there, and there's a vote on the board. Should we do something? Let's say 5 board people, and with a 3-2 vote, you say, no, we're not going to do anything. In this moment, all 5 of you will lose the social legitimization and the followership of your people. Even when you now say, hey, that's not fair because I voted something out, so people have to differentiate between the other people's vote and me. Well, do they? You are now claiming something that when someone committed an offense where you say they now have to give you a second chance? No, they are not going to do that. It is very important that as soon as there's an offense in this area, you must be able to see that you act as a group. I'll just give you a very simple example. When you say, well, I voted differently and I'm very disappointed that we're not going to do anything, the best you will get from your people is that they say, yeah, I know that you're different, but, and the but always is, you act as a group, we see that offenses happen, nothing follows as a consequence, sorry, I will work somewhere else, or sorry, I'm now in the process of either quitting or silent quitting or only working the standard hours. They will show you very clearly that they don't care anymore. At the end, only results rule. And we all know the excuses which you have heard way too often. So, for example, just to give you the top 3. Number 3 is where they say, oh, who should replace that person? Well, that's not the first question we have here, because you need to get rid of the person and then you can see how to replace them. Especially leaders who often say everyone is replaceable. Oh, suddenly that's not the case anymore? Or is it just one of your university mates you want to protect here, someone from your network? So when you say who should replace that person, as a good organization, you have a plan in mind how to replace people, because the same would apply if the person suddenly moves on, works somewhere else, or gets ill or sick for whatever reason. So who should replace that person? Not a valid reason. Number 2, that's an important employee for us. Well, no matter how important you are, when you are important, it does not mean that you can now act in a violent manner, in an unacceptable manner, or be offensive or violate the rules just because you're important. Unfortunately, often managers or executives get away with behavior that no employee could ever dare to show. And that is exactly the problem. You lose credibility when you allow that to happen. And the number one aspect, the number one saying I hear when someone commits an offense and they don't want to do anything about it, they say, well, it's someone who's here for a very long time. And often it comes with, oh, the person has certain accolades, certain achievements, has its merit, has his or her merits. the person's merits and the achievement and the merits and so important, so long here, blah, 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 blah. It's nothing else than a chumbawamba of excuses. It's not that you have like a little book where you get like bonus stamps in there, and with 10 bonus stamps, you can slap an employee in the face. For 100, you can make a sexist joke, and for 1,000, you can actually punch someone on the board in their face. This is not how it works. No matter how long someone is there, it is not an excuse, especially when you come with, oh, that person's from a different generation. They can't know. Well, they can know. Their problem, obviously, is that they first didn't take part in change, something you expect from every single person working for you. And also all the training, consulting, and whatever matters you had, coaching, whatever it was, they didn't take part in it, or they weren't serious about taking part. It is crucial now that this person now gets the qualification. When there is any way to still work together with serious offenses, of course, the person has to leave the organization. But when there's any chance, you have to properly retrain, recoach, re-educate that person. And I don't mean the $49 online course, which you purchase on Udemy or some platform where some random person with no qualification tells you something about something. You need to properly invest and properly track that in the future, this is not going to happen again. And there are many negative examples, including my industry. In my industry, we have countless associations for trainers, speakers, coaches. None of these associations have any relevance at all. And just to give you a very negative example of what one of these associations did, a vice president of one of these associations put out homophobic and anti-Semitic jokes. But hey, why not make jokes about Jews and gays when you are the vice president of a German, whatever, coach, trainer, whatever association? Fortunately, these associations are completely irrelevant to free enterprise. They claim that they speak in the name of the industry. They don't. Looking at the membership numbers in somewhere in the hundreds or lower 4-digit, we have a significant 5-digit amount of people working in the industry. None of these associations speak in our name or in the name of the industry. However, when, of course, you then show no consequences, you should not be surprised that, and that is something that one of my clients said recently, that they said, oh, that's a speaker UKIP, isn't it? So you suddenly get the image of the equivalent to a far right-wing populist organization. Congratulations for that. That happens when you show no consequences. And by the way, just to be very clear, when something happens, the assumption of innocence applies to absolutely anyone. And there are moments where in due course of the either interrogations or questioning or the investigation, you see there are serious doubts about if it really happened the way the person said. And in the moment of doubt, the person that is charged is always in dubio pro reo. If in doubt, you always decide in favor of the person charged. That's what every single reasonable legal system will do. And the same applies for organizations and associations. So the same here. However, when you come to the conclusion the person is guilty, then the easiest way is that the person, and they should have done it in the first place, apologizes, says what they're going to do in the future, and then you can move on from there. In most, not all, but in most cases, you then can move on. And even people who were bitter enemies before suddenly agree that they can work together again. But of course, you have to show that you are interested in showing very clear consequences, as, for example, Adidas and many others did when it comes to the case of Kanye West, even when it means that you lose a significant amount of money, because money doesn't replace values. So in the end, you come to the conclusion to say, you need very clear rules, you need to act on it very clearly, and that means you get clear results. And that is the way how to properly deal with values. Of course, I published about this. So when you go to expert.nb-networks.com and you put in your email address there, every Wednesday morning you will receive an email. That is the only way how to receive free access to my publications. There are many other ways where it's the paywall or you have to pay in one way or the other. So expert.nb-networks.com. Every Wednesday morning you receive an email, which is 100% content, an ad-free guarantee, and then you get access to absolutely anything I published. Of course, when you now say, hey, we're not doing well with this, I have a very specific question. Can we confidentially talk? Of course we can. It doesn't cost you a penny. Just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com, and then we take it from there. When you, of course, and that also happened last week, when you have something very specific where you say, hey, we need someone for a training session, speaking, coaching, consulting, or mentoring, project interim management, or we have an event, can you host it or can you speak there? Of course. But we can also just talk about your questions. Just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com. And no worries, I'm not entering if you're interested in, for example, a training session. I'm not the person getting into the room saying you're doing it all wrong, because that doesn't get anyone anywhere. But we have to change because we see how bad certain organizations act on situations where it comes to values. The most important aspect now will be that you apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply it, you will see the positive change that you are looking for in your organization. I'm wishing you all the best implementing these steps in your organization. Always happy to help you doing so. Thank you very much again for your support. We again got a top 10 ranking in Ireland, very competitive market in business and management. So thank you very much for listening to this. I wish you all the best implementing these steps in your organization. Always happy to help. And for this week, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.